All right, Nigeria's food delivery space is undergoing a quiet revolution, with more young people turning to digital platforms for convenience, with restaurants increasingly relying on technology to reach new customers. We're seeing startups emerging as key players in the country's digital economy. Beyond just delivering meals, platforms are helping small businesses grow and creating jobs in the gig economy. Well, join us now to unpack this. Well, Femi Luko is the CEO, co-founder at Chowdeck. Join me right here in the studio. It's great to have you.
Yeah, hi.
And I'm going to ask for my chow again at this point. Maybe you give me after the show, because I know you deal with food a lot, and with very, very sweet food. All right, let's look at what's playing out, in the industry. Right now we're seeing, there's a cost of living crisis, at this point, and restaurants still need to make sales. We still have, a couple of consumers still, that have that taste for good food, and they want to, still order food even though they don't have that much money. Talk to me about what you're seeing with, consumer preferences, so far in your industry.
Yeah, I think you're largely correct. When we started in 2021, that's late 2021, early 22, we saw a lot of customers ordering for a lot of bougie items like rice, chicken, turkey, a bunch of these things. I think it was early 2024, we started seeing change in consumer behavior. We started seeing that a lot of people started ordering a lot more things like beef, like eggs, like fish. And then we started asking questions, what's happening? Just the question you just asked now, we started looking into our data, and we realized very quickly that consumer behavior is changing. People are tending to order a lot more things to cook. People are cooking a lot more at home than ordering food from online and restaurants. So we launched a product called Local Markets, where you can just shop from your local markets around you. And what we've seen, that product has seen massive uptake. We launched in May of 2024. Right now, we do over 1,000 deliveries from local markets daily. So consumers are still having to use the platform.
So instead of ordering food, I'm going to order items to cook my food in the house.
Yeah, so it depends on your preference. So at the beginning of the month, a lot of people order food from restaurants. That's the top restaurants. They order food from restaurants every day. And then as it gets to the middle of the month, we see a lot of customers trying to order food, other groceries or items to use to cook during the month.
Right.
So it hasn't really changed. The behavior we are solving is one of logistics, just getting things to people where they need them. So for us, whether you want to cook, whether you want to order food online, anything you want to do, or even medicine, anything you want to order on Chowdeck, you can get it and it gets delivered to you quickly. Yeah.
Because I'm one person, I really love Chinese, but I know how expensive Chinese food is right now. And sometimes I say, you know what, maybe I can make Chinese at home, but it never comes out the way I would like it to. But let's look at, I remember there was a report a while back. You guys did talk about an amala seller.
That's correct.
That made $2 billion.
That's correct.
I believe that was in a year?
Yeah, she did 500,000 deliveries, in a year.
In a year?
No, over the lifespan of...
selling amala made $2 billion.
Yeah.
When I heard that story, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start selling amala now. I'm going to put away my suit and tie. But how's that looking this year? Are you still seeing, sellers, making that kind of money this year?
Yeah, we are seeing sellers that have, or restaurants and even pharmacies that that focus on the average Nigerian grew a lot this year. So the price, even though things have changed over the last few months or few years, we are still seeing our top restaurants still churning on orders month on month, hitting all-time highs in terms of daily deliveries that they do every month. So it's every day rather. So it's I don't think that has changed a lot, because people still need to eat. It's a lot cheaper, for example, to go to a restaurant and buy amala 200 naira and beef 200 naira, and then with 1,000 naira or 1,500 naira you can get a good food from these restaurants. That's, like you said, it's hard to cook these things at home. When you think about the cost of just making your amala at home, think about the cost of buying, even going to the market and all of those things. It's a lot cheaper to just order
you might not make it as sweet as...
Exactly. This woman has made amala for the last few years, almost 10 years. So she's been selling amala, rather, she's probably been making it for since she was born, but she's been selling amala for almost 10 years. So I think that these things are helping these restaurants also grow a lot faster, because they have a wider range of distribution now. Before, they could only get customers around that area, but around this place, for example, we can deliver to as far as 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers. So you can stay from somewhere like Opik, for example, and get meals from somewhere like Olowora, places like Ikeja and all of those things. Yeah, and it's making these restaurants a lot easier. Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure you did hear about the issue between New Peng and the Dangote refinery.
Yes.
And we're all scared. We're thinking, oh my goodness, if there was a strike, what's going to happen to fuel prices? I'm sure you got nervous
I was even
at some point.
Yeah, we actually had a couple of meetings this morning because like we already seen some behavior in Port Harcourt already, where like some like prices are very it gets a lot expensive, like stations are closed and all of those things. Yeah, so I think I'm nervous, but I think that like the big boys will figure it out here.
They figure it out, at this point.
Out, yeah.
But how do you manage logistics? Cost, because definitely we know fuel prices are still high, at this point. Most of us in our minds, we're trapped at a particular price per liter of fuel.
That's correct.
So these prices are still very high. How do you balance, getting food products to the last mile, customer with the cost of, buying fuel and all of that, all those overhead costs?
Yeah, thankfully, like over the course of building Chowdeck, we've seen multiple iterations of this where like fuel price increase. Like I think in 2023, like we had an increment in fuel price, we had to adjust to it. And I think what we are learning is that like we have to strike a balance between like the cost of delivery and then the cost of like delivering. The cost of delivery, that's how much customers pay for delivery and how much you pay the riders. Over time, we've increased our fleet. Because we are also like very ESG conscious, we've increased our fleet to now have a lot of bicycles that don't necessarily have to use fuel for all deliveries. So for shorter distances, we use bicycles a lot, and for longer distances we use like fuel-powered bikes. We are also moving to like using a couple of electric vehicles. Like we partner with like a company called Max. I don't know if you know Max. Max does like EVs, so we are trying to also like mitigate the effect so that like we don't have like very expensive prices to our customers and just chase customers away. Right. So it's a balance of both. Yeah, we still use fuel heavily, but like it's a mix of like for short distances we use a lot of bicycles, and bicycles don't require fuel. So the only cost we now have to deal with is just the increased cost of living, which we now have to balance in the pricing to our customers.
Right, and I see a lot of those boys, riding, bicycles, getting their deliveries.
Yeah.
I ask myself, how profitable is it for these boys, riding this bicycle? It seems like a good business because you're fit, you're riding that bicycle, that's fitness, and you're making money. But are those boys, are they paid well?
Yeah, like I published a stat like I think a few years ago. It's probably higher now. Like on the average, like the Chowdeck rider makes at least 100,000 naira every week. So you just by riding, like you are able to make 100,000 naira, like just riding on Chowdeck every week. And the best ones the best ones actually do make like much higher, because again it's a game of numbers. The more deliveries you do, the stronger you are. The more you're able to cover make more money and cover more distance and kilometer, because they're also paid per kilometer.
So you're telling me those boys riding those bicycles make 100K a week?
That's correct, yeah.
So in a month,
yeah,
we're looking at about 400,000.
That's very correct, yeah.
Riding bicycles?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's incredible, because I did see, something about, the ride-hailing drivers. I did see one report one time that they were earning even more than doctors.
Yeah. I think it's very correct, but again, it also comes with like its own like additional cost. Like you have to maintain the bicycles. This is how much you get paid, but like again, you have to maintain your bicycles. Again, it's not as expensive as maintaining your fuel-powered bikes.
Right.
But like in the long term, like yeah, and because it's also bicycle, you can't drive for too long. Like you probably drive for 10 hours. You probably do like 1 or 2 deliveries per hour. So if you are doing like maybe 10, 15 deliveries a day, you're able to make like well over 100K.
Right. And do you think there are a lot of young guys, looking to actually get into this?
Yes. Like we thankfully we are in a lot of student communities. So what happens is that like most students like maybe go to classes during the day and then in the evening they come out with their bicycles to deliver. That's how a lot of people are able to pay their a number of them are able to pay their school fees, like in schools and all of those things. Yeah. So it's just like I guess promoting the hustle culture that like you can make legit money by doing like the most.
But I hardly see girls riding the bicycles.
They do ride. They do ride. Yeah, they do ride. Maybe not around like communities like smaller communities, but like in the bigger more mature communities like VI, like Ikoyi, like Ikeja. Yeah, but we have a number of female riders that ride for Chowdeck. Yeah.
All right. So let's look at the big picture. At this point, we have investors looking for a way to stash cash at this point that would actually bring fantastic ROI, and some will be looking at this business now, the logistics business, and some have got into the business and they failed. They've not been able to last maybe 5 years or so. What would you say are the real challenges in doing logistics business in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think you've rightly touched on a couple of them, which is like things like the fuel situation. But I think what we've done very well is just like innovating around a lot of these solutions. Like it was bikes we used to use for deliveries before. Now we use bicycles. Scale is also a big problem, which is like also like just these restaurants expanding, because a restaurant that used to deliver, that used to process maybe like 10 or 20 orders in a day before, on Chowdeck now they're doing like 400, 500 orders in a day. Like that comes with like additional complexity, like additional like expansion, additional growth, and all of those things. There's also the cost of education too. Thankfully, like guys before us had done the work to just educate a couple of these customers, but it's still a very much, it's still a very small market. You know what I mean? Like previously, like it was just very few areas in Nigeria that had like food delivery available to them. It was also like very few things that could be delivered online, things like pizza, things like burger. But now we have expanded our market. Now we deliver things like amala, things like, I don't know, jollof rice, things that like people eat every day. And then we also learned very quickly that like the logistics of delivering amala is very different from the logistics of delivering pizza. So how you even undo the packaging, how you design the bags, down to like how the bikes even move, like plays a very huge role in how these things get delivered to customers like effectively. And I think that like those are the early challenges we had to face, we had to solve, and now we are where we are.
Right. And, you know, we've heard some very wise people, you know, say in the past that if there's a cost of living crisis, if there's problem, that just go into food business. You can't go wrong. Is that still what we're seeing?
I mean, that's the thesis I operate by, but I'm probably not as wise as those people. But, but I think on the high level, and I think that's the questions we ask ourselves internally. That like, what's the worst that will happen? Like, if all the restaurants close, for example, like the truth that cannot become false is that like people have to eat to survive. So as long as there are people in Nigeria, like these people have to eat, they have to survive. So how do we play on that level? How are we able to provide like the items that they need? And that's why I mentioned that like we went into local items like groceries, delivering things that people used to cook and all of this. Yeah. So like I think it's largely correct that like yeah, without food people can't survive, and then you just have to keep innovating around how you deliver this experience and efficiency to customers.
Right.
Yeah.
I know we keep talking about, you know, government providing this, government providing that, and also government not having business in business. What would you like to see, you know, when it comes to policy that can help your industry?
Yeah. I think the challenges are like, I don't think it's peculiar to Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria has its own unique challenges, but like across the world, like the food delivery space is still very, very early. Think of continents like India, like China that have built this thing before. Like they were once where we were, like in Nigeria. And I think just like favorable government policies, like I always talk about like the government just helping us to provide like enabling environment for like a lot of these our small businesses, like making it easy for these businesses to spring up, like just helping like them reduce the burden for a lot of these businesses. Like when they start, I think that like now we are seeing a lot of businesses, a lot of people like open restaurants on Chowdeck, and in a few months they are doing like ridiculous numbers. So I think just continue to provide like a thriving environment for like a lot of these businesses. Yeah, just policies that like help businesses start up faster, grow faster, and yeah.
Right. Not a heated environment.
Yes,
an environment that's cool,
yeah.
You know, for business at this point. Yeah. All right, it was great having this conversation with you. Thank you so much. Femi Oluko is the CEO, co-founder of Chowdeck, that did not bring my chow right here, that I did not order.
Yeah, the rider was calling me like.
But, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
today.
all right, thank you.